So, what's up with SIGNALIS? Developed by Rose Engine, SIGNALIS is heavily inspired by Resident Evil and Silent Hill. This survival horror game was released in October of 2022. Those who have played it can't stop recommending it, and those who haven't have no idea what it is. And with it being in Game Pass for the time being, it was a perfect time for me to jump in. Wake up. SIGNALIS starts with Elster looking for her partner Ariane after their ship crash lands on an unknown planet. Making her way into the nearby facility, she finds out almost everyone has gone nuts, turning into monsters. You must navigate different sections of the facility looking for keys, solving puzzles, all while trying to survive. When I say inspired by Resident Evil and Silent Hill, I mean this game is almost a carbon copy in some of the aspects. Look at how you save. And look at the inventory menu. Of course, this isn't a bad thing, since SIGNALIS takes some of the greatest aspects from each of the series. First off, indie games don't usually go crazy with the graphics, and SIGNALIS is no different. The aesthetic is very 80s-esque. The technology you use throughout the game is also a throwback, like VHS and cassette tapes. It's a neat contrast with all the futuristic Android stuff going on at the same time. It really reminded me of Alien. The graphics of the game are part of the charm. The low poly, fuzzy, kind of scanline presentation is so well done here. I would have to say that there are shots of the characters that just don't look great. I think they either look too clean or too exaggerated. I don't know, something just doesn't vibe with the dirty, grungy look of the rest of the game. There are parts of SIGNALIS that have you do some first-person levels. It's unclear if these are flashbacks or warping or something else entirely, but these areas are pretty dope. You explore a small area using traditional dual-stick controls. Typically, you'll find an item and you end up bringing it back with you to the facility. These expand on the complex story. I mentioned in the video about the medium to pick up as much as you can and then go on YouTube to fill in the gaps. I'm gonna say the same thing here because even though, looking back, the medium story is easier to follow than the one in SIGNALIS. It gets pretty bonkers and it's quite the experience. The map and navigation are amazing. Open doors will show blue. Doors that are locked temporarily will show yellow. Locked doors are orange, and doors that you haven't even checked yet are gray. Inside of the rooms, you'll see red diamonds, which will show you a task that you have not completed yet. Locked doors don't show what type of key that you need, but a huge positive is that when you get a key, the description will tell you exactly where you need to use it. So you can plan your trip accordingly. Bring what you need in terms of weapons or any other key items that you want to drop off on your way. This leads into a small nitpick, which is your inventory. 6 spaces. And I know, it adds to the survival horror. The early RE games had limited spaces. 5, I think, if you picked Chris. But the thing is, it doesn't make it scarier for me. I will just take 2 trips to recover any new item that I found. I found myself having 1 fully loaded weapon, a stack of healing items, and some sort of equipable item. The equipable items are bound to the left bumper. You can put a stun prod, a flare, which I'll talk about later, a flashlight, and I think that's it. The stun prod allows you to drop enemies instantly using a charge. The game then wants you to stomp on enemies that fall by pressing A. Once you hear them scream, they're dead. Sometimes when they fall, you hear them say to like the video if you like it and to subscribe if you're loving it. It's free. Thank you. Let's talk about the guns now. You're drip fed 1 weapon at a time, as you'd expect, but sometimes you'll come across ammo that you have no use for, or do you? Because what this game does, and it doesn't say, is that this is pistol bullets, this is revolver bullets, etc. They go by the millimeters, which is the size of the bullet. You gotta remember which bullet belongs to each gun. They're all color-coded differently, so it's something you just gotta get used to. A feature that I love is how generous the game is when it comes to your limited inventory space. You can reload your guns in the inventory screen, or when your inventory is full and you pick up ammo for a gun that you have on you, the bullets will be loaded straight into the gun for you. This came in clutch quite a few times. A neat mechanic is this radio, and without spoiling too much, you can browse the frequencies. Sometimes it can play music, sometimes some tones or random sounds, or nothing at all. But you can always just let the radio play out loud, and it can react with some environments in interesting ways. A quick thought is the game will make it pretty obvious when you need to use the radio. It's not a feature you need to keep wondering where or when to use it, which was my first thought. My main negative with the game is just a preference. This game does the whole Crimson Head thing from Resident Evil Remake, meaning your dead enemies will come back to life after a certain amount of time. You are given flares to use on enemies that you want to stay down. I call this a negative because I don't really like this in the Resident Evil games, and this is what led me to not finishing that one. Long story short, I forgot that it was a feature, and once it dawned on me, they all started popping back up again, and it just ruined my day. A trick to deal with them in Signalis is to burn enemies in places where you'll be frequenting, like hallways or rooms that have multiple doors. You get a couple flares, and I mean a couple, literally. I'm not a fan of the mechanic, but I managed. The time has come. Should you play Signalis? Well, it's the perfect game if you need to check your map every 5 seconds. If you want to line up enemies with the shotgun. Whoa, look at this speedy boy. And if you want to see jabronis climb out of the floor. What's up everyone, thanks for watching. If you yearn for a classic horror game experience, I can't recommend this game enough. I first heard its praise from Maddie Plays and decided to give it a shot. I got hooked because once you find one key item, it leads you to the next and then to the next. I was all in. Definitely interested to see what Rose Engine makes next. Anyways, thanks so much for watching. Stay safe. I found myself having one fully loaded weapon